Peace. What's up? I'm back for another review on Queen of the South, which is season 5, episode 6. And the title of the episode is Plata o Plomo. And I looked up the translation. It says it means silver or lead. So, let's see what's going on. So the episode starts off at Teresa's new hotel over there in Europe. So Teresa's switching in the swimming pool area, and she looking fly. She been looking so fly lately. So Teresa walk in. Okay, Teresa. So she goes and sit next to Pote. So she asks Pote, "Did you have a good swim?" And Pote say, "It was good for the first few laps, then I swallowed some water." And she said, "Don't worry, chlorine won't kill you." Pote say, "I'm not afraid of the chlorine, Teresita. I don't put it past these rich pendejos that they pee in the pool, especially that one right there." And he point all crazy at the bull. He just too funny. So, but I know what he mean, because I don't like swimming at public pools, because I just can't. I can't. Ugh. And people think just because chlorine is going to, like, just because the germs ain't there, the pee's still there. Come on now. Ew. So anyway. So that's that. James comes in. And James say he been doing some reconnaissance pretty much. So he said Oleg was right about Navarro. He ran coke from Morocco to Germany, big numbers. And then Pote said, "We'll get his business. Gotta meet him today in Berlin." So Teresa said, "Gotta meet him today in Berlin." And James said, "It's gonna be tough to clear that area on short notice." And Teresa said, "Please take care of it." So remember, Navarro was the one who Oleg was saying that's who she could get with, make a start working with him. So Teresa want to meet with him. So now it's to Boaz, and it's back at Boaz's house. George is asleep, and Boaz wake him up by having his gun and stuff like that, and Boaz and all his little crazy goons, they all sitting back there like, just looking menacing. So that's what happened next. Boaz said, "Wake up, we got work to do." So that was that. So now flip to the scene where Teresa is at the park waiting to meet with the guy Navarro. So she's sitting with Oleg in like a park bench, basically a park table. And James and Pote, they securing the scene, they looking around or whatever. And I just want to say that it's just that certain things just be unrealistic. Like, you are the head of a whole cartel. You really gonna take that type of risk just to hurry up and meet somebody in a public park without the scene being properly secured? You don't got your proper security. She's supposed to have people posted, boom, boom, boom. Not just Pote and James, but that's okay. We gonna take it. So they sitting there, and Teresa said he's 15 minutes late. And so that was the first red flag to me, because a businessman, a real hustler, businessman, 15 minutes late. Okay, that was a little red flag. So then Oleg pick up his phone and is like, "All right, I'm going to call him." He called him, no answer. All right, that's it. Red flags all over the place. Alarm, ring the alarm. Like, come on. So he don't answer the phone. Then Teresa looking around. Come on. It don't feel right. Like, no, it didn't feel right when he was late and then he ain't answer the phone. That was it. You should have got up out of there. I don't think it feel right. So anyway, so she looking around. Next thing you know, this bull running up and start shooting. And so James start returning fire. So now it's a shootout. Oleg got shot in his arm trying to protect Teresa. And so they had a shootout. And, Teresa and them won and got out of there. So now they back at the crib, and James is fixing up Oleg's his wound. All right, so back to Boaz's house. So at Boaz's house, George walk in and they just getting together to have heavy artillery, like, you know, all type of automatics and AKs and all type of stuff. And so George said, "What's up? What's going on?" Boaz said, "Remember that Haitian boy?" And that was the one who Boaz had shot in front of him. And he said, his people want war now. And George said, "Do Teresa know?" Boaz said, "That's why she sent me to handle things." So he basically saying, you know, Teresa don't know about what they about to do, but that's his job to handle it or whatever. So back to the house with James and Teresa, Oleg, you know, and all of them. So, but Oleg is in the other room, and James like, "You think Oleg set us up?" And I thought that was funny because James forever think everybody's setting them up. But that's good. It's better safe than sorry. But Teresa don't never think nobody's setting her up, you know. So, but yeah. And then Teresa said, "No, he almost died trying to save me." So the phone rang. Oleg phone ring. It's Navarro. Teresa's talking about, "Put it on speaker." So Navarro said to Oleg, "You tried to set me up." And Oleg like, "What?" And he like, "First you took down my supplier, and now you want to fulfill my demand." So he basically saying that Oleg tried to set him up and take him out. And then Teresa said, "This is Teresa Mendoza. What do you mean?" And the bull said, "Hakeem Bashara, you killed him 3 days ago." So then Teresa just get all quiet like, so that's confirmation. Then she confirmed it even more. "I didn't know you worked with him, and this had nothing to do with you." And the bull basically said, "Whatever. I don't like violence, but I'll kill you before I buy from you." And he said, "Next time I'm not going to miss." So then Teresa, when he hung up the phone, and Teresa said, "I want to know everything about Navarro and his operations." All right, so now cut to Kellyanne. And some worker, like a construction worker, called Kellyanne and said he can't access their property. You know, that waterfront property they bought. He said that he can't get access to it without getting through this road, a certain roadway, and the roadway is blocked off, so he can't get to it. So and security won't let them in. So that was the end of that scene. So now back to James and Teresa. Teresa say, "I want to make a deal with Navarro." Like, you know, she want to work and she want to start working with him. And James say, "Look, I'm not questioning you, but why you need all that, basically?" And Teresa like, "Europe is exploding." And she basically like, "We got to get this money." And he said, "You already got more money than you could spend." He's like, "What's it really about? It's about power. You could have died today." So that was it. That wasn't much, but that was just a little side note. So now you cut to Kellyanne, and she met with the men who sold them the waterfront property. And so she met up with them, and she said, "How you expect us to develop the property if we can't get to it?" And the bull like, "I mean, you would have to buy the roadway." And he was like, I'll sell it to you for 500 mil. And so he trying to extort them, you know, basically. And somebody, so they had a little conversation about it. And then when Kellyanne walked away, somebody told her, call Teresa. And she got a lot going on. I'll handle it. So that was the end of that scene. So now it is the Haitians. It cut to, oh no, this is just Boaz talking to George. And he said the Haitians are cutting the coke with fentanyl. And he said all we need is the first white kid to die on spring break, and that's going to bring all the heat on Heifer. So that explains what's going on with Boaz. Well, it doesn't really explain. Well, all right, it explains it. Because I thought he said the Haitians wanted war for killing that bull. But, you know, the true thing that he's saying is that they cutting the coke with fentanyl. All right, so now they cut to Teresa, Pote, and probably James. You know, they sitting outside of this building, and this man walks out, And Oleg is in there too. And he said that's Navarro's inside man. He keep Navarro informed on anything going on around the corridor. He's the best shot at getting at Navarro. And so they need to grab him tonight. So that's that. Next scene, cut back to Boaz. So Boaz and George sitting there, and Boaz like, man, I like you, George. He like, but tell me the truth. Didn't Teresa send you here to watch me? And George sat there all quiet all along. They killed me with that. Like, you telling on yourself. But he said, no, I came for some R&R. But Teresa did say I could watch your back. And Boaz said, I don't blame her. She could have killed me, but she didn't. Her heart is bigger than my balls, or whatever. They was laughing. And, they just had like a little nice conversation. So now, cut to James watching Navarro's guy at the gym. The guy at the gym, I think he hitting a punching bag or whatever. And so then the bull finished his workout and he get in the shower or whatever. So he getting dressed at his locker. And when he go to close the locker, James behind the locker, like with the gun pointed at him, bull just stole the shit out James like. So that was shocking to me because, James always be on point, man. That bull stole the shit out James. So they rumbling. And I was just like, in my notes, I say James got the right one today. Because that bull was giving James a run for his money, man. That bull was in shape. He was a rumbler. They was going at it. He slammed James like, bam. So they rumbling, mixing it up. So at the end of it, James got the best of him. Ended up choking him with like the shower head cord. And so that's that. So the next scene, you see the bull who James beat up, Navarro, man. He's sitting in a car across from Teresa, and he all beat up. And Teresa, Pote, and James, they all in there. So she introduced herself. They start talking and stuff. And she was saying how she need to she want to meet with Navarro. And so the man is just sitting there. He like, where are we at? What are we doing? Then he look over and girls are doing ballet in there. He like, this is my daughter ballet school. So he knows it's a dry threat, or veiled threat, whatever you call it. And so she said, I need to speak with Navarro. And the bull said, Navarro is a dangerous man to cross. And Pote put down like a stack of money and was like, it's your choice. It's your choice, cabron. So that was that. So now you cut back to Kelly Ann coming back into those real estate guys who trying to extort them to buy the roadway. So she come in with some duffel bags, put them on the table, and she like, we'll give you $10 million cash right now for the roadway. And the bull like, that's 490 mil short. And he like and Kelly like, the property is useless without the roadway. And the bull said, you right. He said, all right, I'll buy it back. I'll buy the property back off of y'all then for 250 mil. And Kelly like, that's half of what Teresa paid you for it. She like, so that was y'all plan all along. All right. So that was pretty much it. He had security escort her out. So now, Pote, James, Teresa, and Oleg are waiting to meet Navarro. They parked somewhere in some dark area. So somebody started pulling up, and then it ended up being two cop cars. One pulled in front of them, one pulled in behind them. And they like, oh, shit, he set us up. So that it probably went to commercial. So then when it came back, oh, no, actually, the next scene was Boaz and George. And so Boaz was like, the Haitians is coming around the corner or whatever. So Boaz and George hopped out on them, and they ended up hopping out on the Haitians and was running up to their van or whatever with their guns out. And then somebody ran out the house and started shooting, and so it's a little shootout, but Boaz and them won. And so then they dragged the one Haitian boy in the house screaming. He's yelling and screaming and stuff, and Boaz like, Cayate. So they tested the coke, and like George did a fentanyl test on a coke, and it tested positive for fentanyl. And then somebody like went in the other room and came out with like a big canister of fentanyl. Like, what's this then? And Haitian boy like, I never seen that before. Like, I don't know where that came from. So Boaz poured the fentanyl, had somebody pour the fentanyl on a table, and then they took the bull and smashed his face in it and all that. So I guess he died. Boaz was laughing. He just so crazy. I like Boaz. But dang, I don't like people who like sadistic like that. He a little too sadistic. And you know, of course I known that, but he haven't really been showing it that much lately. So I wasn't feeling that. So, and George wasn't either. He like, let me go get some air. So that's that. So now it cut back to Teresa and the guy Navarro, because it turned out, okay, back to that scene. So when they thought it was the cops and they had set them up, then they saw the bull who James beat up come out, and he opened up the back seat, and then Navarro came out and he had handcuffs on. So the bull did grab Navarro for them. And so Teresa meeting with him. So she asking Navarro, you know, join with us, you know, and he like, why should I? And she was like, if you don't, you know, I'm gonna work with your competitors. And she like, my product is all that basically, and you might lose your market. And so that was her proposal. Then they start talking about his life story real quick. So anyway, end of the day, he said he'd take the deal if she give him a discount for killing his the Algerians, his supplier. And she said, all right. And she said, but you can't go after Oleg. And then he said, me and Oleg got no problems. So they shook hands. They got a deal. So now back to Kelly Ann, and she's telling Teresa about how those real estate guys is trying to jerk them on the property. And so then she like, what you want to do? And Teresa said, they want to act like gangsters. We going to treat them like gangsters. I was like, yes, because that was the first thing I was thinking all along. Like, when they was doing what they was doing, I was like, who they think they playing with? Like, who do you think you playing with the wrong ones? Like, so that was that. So now, back to Boaz and George. So they sitting out there talking, just Boaz and George sitting at the table outside. Boaz like, you saved my ass yesterday. And they joked around for a little minute. And then they talked about being Butch Cassidy and a Sundance Kid or whatever. And Boaz asked George to stay in Miami and be his number 2. And George was like, I have to ask Teresa. And so they take a shot together. Boaz was like, I love you, man. And so that was it. So George called Teresa, and he told her about the fentanyl and the Haitians. And Teresa was like, none of the tainted product, you know, got out there, did it? And he was like, nah, not thanks to Boaz, it didn't. Boaz handled his business. Then he was like, yeah, as far as I could see, Boaz solid, Teresa. And so Teresa said, I still don't trust him. And she said, stay down there a little longer. So George makes some little jokes, and Teresa laughed with him. You know, that's her guy. And so that's it. So I noticed that when it comes to George, because he always got on my nerves through this whole show, you know, through this whole series. But this episode, I'm starting to like George. Like, all right, he ain't get on my nerves at all this episode. So I noticed that. So back to Teresa. So she meeting up with the real estate guys who trying to extort her. So you already know it's about to be something, you know. So she meet with them. She all polite and business-like how are you? Yes, da, da, da. So then they smiling with her. So she like, okay, follow me. So they walk in some building, which they just dumb, but they don't realize, you know, they not gangster, they not in the streets, you know. So I guess they ain't realize. I don't get it. So they walked in the building. When they walk in there, it's plastic up. You already know what it's hitting for when you see the plastic up. And there's 2 chairs sitting there. So they like, yo, what is this? And so then next thing you know, they both sitting in chairs. I guess they was tied in the chairs or whatever. And and Pote and them in there. So they gave him a contract, and Kellyanne is like, this a contract that includes this a revised contract that includes the roadway. And they was like, nah, man, like we ain't doing that. We ain't signing that or whatever. And then Teresa, she mentioned that one of the guys, she was like, something, you know, and he has power of attorney, you know, to sign in your absence, in your partner's absence. And then the partner was like, what you mean in his partner's absence? Then as soon as he said that, bam! So I think it was probably Pote shot one of them in front of the other one. The other one was like, ah! Like, because they was already, one of them already was having an asthma attack for the whole situation. So then they shot the one right in front of the other one. But the one who they left alive has power of attorney. in the other one's absence. So then they just said, you're going to sign over the property. He's like, I'll do it. And so that was that. So then it cut to like, who knows, a couple days later, and you see that guy who ended up signing the property back over to them. And he sent Teresa a car as a gift, and he's like, did you get the car? And she like, yes, I did. And he's like, okay. And he like, oh, you will never hear from me again. And Teresa was like, I know I won't. And then you just saw Pote just shoot him. They was somewhere in like a parking lot. So Pote probably was following them. And, as soon as he talked to Teresa, Pote shot him. And that was that. And Teresa just walked away all cool. Like she getting cold-blooded, more and more cold-blooded as the days go by. So the next scene is Kelly and James. And James just in a dark room looking all concerned and stuff. And so him and Kelly start talking about Teresa. He was like, man, I barely recognize her anymore. And Kelly starts saying how when they met, that she really connected with Teresa because they survivors or whatever. And James like, yeah, well, now she becoming something else or whatever. So that's just a little side note. So the next scene, which is the last scene of the episode, George is back to George and Boaz and them. So George walk in, he sees something hanging out of somebody's pocket. I never really caught what was going on with that. So it's Angel and all them sitting in the living room, like watching something on TV. So then he like, where Boaz? And they like, he handling some business in Hialeah. So they offered George a beer, and he was like, nah. He was like, like he about to go snort something. So then George leave. So then he looking all sneaky again and everything. So I'm like, oh man, why is George even doing this, man? So he walk in the room where they keep the coat or whatever. So he go in, he end up opening his cabinet, and he found all this fentanyl, So that was just terrible. You just knew right away, like, oh man, that's over. So he pulled out his phone, and he down there taking pictures of the fentanyl. And then you see the door open, you see Boaz boots. And so then Boaz walked in. And, and keep in mind, when George first seen the fentanyl, he was like, damn it, Boaz. Because he didn't want to see that. He liked Boaz. So Boaz walked in. And then George was like, yeah, you set them Haitians up. He was like, so I'll tell Teresa you had her back. And it was you all along with the fentanyl. And then Boaz was like, I really wish you wouldn't have come in here, Sundance. And then he just shot George in the head. And then he just was like, Bendejo. And he just walked out. But you could tell that Boaz ain't want to kill James, though. But, he cold-blooded. But, not James, but he didn't want to kill George. So that's that. George is dead. And he died right when I started liking him. But, they always do that. They going to make sure an episode when they kill somebody off that they just make him just don't get on your nerves at all so that you'll really be sad, So, all right, that's that. The new episode should come on tomorrow on USA Network. That'll be episode 7. And so the next couple of days, I'm going to try to get the review out as soon as I can. So thank you for watching. And I would like to discuss, if you want to talk about anything, that'd be cool. And peace out, y'all.